I have always loved and adored the survival horror genre, wanting to play anything from Dead Space to Soma. But it all began with a single franchising game, RE1 Remake on the PS3, and I adore the franchise the most out of all of them. I admit I fell out for a bit until Resident Evil 6. Yes, I know, not the greatest point, but Rev 2, RE7, and 8 blew my mind. Hell, this franchise even got me to play System Shock and even The Evil Within. But if you noticed, I omitted Resident Evil 4. Yeah, I haven't played the original, although I've watched a ton of Neocranium, please watch him by the way, so I was stoked to finally get my hands on RE4 and see what the hype was all about with Capcom's latest remake. And with their track record recently, besides RE3 being as good as it is, I expected something amazing, but I never could have expected this.
You're here looking for someone? Maybe some missing señorita?
Christ!
What's gonna happen to me?
Sorry! Bad traffic! One combat job will compliment the Hunnigan. Ready to die, rookie. No, this time it has to be different.
In Resident Evil 4, you are Leon S. Kennedy, sent by the President of the United States to get his kidnapped daughter, Ashley Graham, back after she was kidnapped to this rural area of Spain. We very quickly find the local populace are affected with the Las Plagas, making them very violent and, strange? They also seem to be controlled by a higher party which worships said parasites in the cult Los Illuminados. Our goal is simple: find Ashley by shooting, stabbing, freaking out, and suplexing our way through this beautifully crafted section of Europe. And oh, is it beautiful, as Capcom have taken this amazing foundation of the original game and recreated it with modern graphics. From the sketchy ass village to gorgeous and opulent castles, the world looks absolutely amazing. Everything you could tell was handcrafted to convey a certain feel to an area, and you could feel that care and attention to detail when moving to different sections. The village feels like visiting a foreign, almost alien land in which you are very not welcome. The dead animals, sacrifices, and disrepaired state of the town are really good at building a sense of dread, but also curiosity as to what's going on here. The castle, in contrast, feels like that opulent grand location, but also mysterious, as the inhabitants are also infected and the lord is something, but everything is still so clean, which is excellently contrasted when you reach the inner depths with this dark and creepy feel. Hell, without spoiling much, the last area even feels like what a modern Metal Gear game might look like. Even still, there's a sense of beauty here with that insane looking sunsets or nighttimes, which are greatly supported by RTX, which shows its strengths greatly in this game. Of course, this wouldn't be complete without inhabitants, and the enemies and character models look fantastic here. Every enemy looks like it belongs, with clothes and mannerisms that fit the location. You can very obviously tell these people are infected with something, and when that something comes out, it looks nasty. That goes for all the enemies, in fact. We have the aforementioned villagers, bugs, mutations, gross giants, and slight spoilers here, but regenerators, which are so freaky and just gross. Even on the inside, they are detailed, because this game has a gore system too. It's really just dismemberment, nothing crazy like Resident Evil 2 or Dead Space where enemies visually fall apart, but still really cool. It feels great when you blow an enemy's leg off or the Las Plagas comes out to personally sort you out. Which feels bombastic when bosses come to personally try to finish the job with their crazy ass Resident Evil mutations. Outside of cannon fodder, our main characters also look perfect. Leon just looks like an older buff version of him from RE2 Remake, which translated seamlessly from the OG RE4. Krauser looks badass, Ada is great, Ashley looks really good, and Luis kinda looks like it could be my uncle, but I digress. Even ours and the enemy's weapons are insanely highly detailed and very accurate to the real world parallels. Fortunately for us, we can view all of this in typical Capcom style in the model viewers, which you can get from challenges in the game. This really gives you the time to look at and appreciate the textures up close, as this is an action game, things can go by fast. But everything still is incredibly highly detailed. I'm actually surprised my 3080 could even handle it at 1440p, even with the LSSS.
No fucking way.
Let's talk about audio. Audio is just insane here. From the first moment you boot up the game, you can feel a lot of love and work was painstakingly put into this game. The world itself has great ambience when just walking around, which keeps the tense feel the game has. You can hear distant crows, animals, flowing rivers, distant enemies, and monsters making weird sounds, and it interacts great with you. Leon's movements reflect on where he's walking as well as his status and equipment. There's trekking in the forest, hollow footsteps in the spacious castle, sketchy walkways, and even just the ambient jangle of you carrying around your gear. and there is typically a really nice sound cue for when you are doing or complete a puzzle. It is stupidly immersive, even rivaling the Dead Space remake in my opinion. It works great in gameplay as well when you hear something behind you and try to block, or know something's chasing you. Voice acting likewise is really good with a few things I'd like to address. Leon, Krauser, Luis, Ashley, and Salazar all sound perfect, with their lines delivered perfectly and with emotions. I personally can believe these characters exist.
You. Hey, listen, about earlier.
Yeah, about that.
Hey, I see you found your missing señorita.
Senorita has a name and it's Ashley. You are?
Even those officers from the beginning, with their short time, and the fact that this game still has cheesy action vibe to it, especially with Leon's one-liners and quips, or even when he gets injured, he sounds appropriately hurt.
Luis here. You guys still around?
Well, I wanted to go home, but Ashley just had to see this castle first.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
You got worms too?
The issues, however, exist with Ada and the enemies, but for different reasons. Ada sounds okay, and her voice actor did a great job, but even if it isn't the Ada I was expecting or used to.
The deal was, we get you out of here when you deliver the amber. No amber, no protection, Luis.
The one from RE2 was replaced, probably because she's a Union VA and Capcom hates those. But that is not an excuse for people to shit on her and harass her. Come on, she did an okay job that I will admit feels very wooden, but because it isn't what we're used to, people shit on her more. It makes me mad, and I want to point out that it isn't cool. The other is the enemy AI having way too few lines. They now use Spain Spanish and not Mexican Spanish like the original, which is big sad, but I feel like the voice lines were way too few here. I feel like maybe after the first hour or two of gameplay, I had heard every voice line, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. It gets a tad repetitive and is the only issue with audio I have, but you could argue it makes sense for story reasons as this parasite is controlling them and probably doing hell on their minds. In combat, weapons also sound great with everything sounding like it has its own force to it. Shotguns sound really meaty and like it'll rip a man in two. Handguns sound just punchy enough. Rifles sound like they'll tear through anything.
Alright.
Explosives, well, they go boom, but even the knife sounds really, really good when you parry something perfectly. Now let's dive into the real meat of this game, the absolutely mind-blowingly addictive gameplay. I must mention firstly that I played this game on hardcore, which is absolutely the hardest hardcore I've played of any Resident Evil game. And for once, I'd actually recommend you play on standard and not hard, which is weird for me. Anyways, the original Resident Evil 4 had tank controls with a more actiony touch to it that made a stupidly fun game. This game mixed Resident Evil 2 Remake's combat with that actiony touch to make something really unique. There's still the intensity of keeping track of your resources and playing safe and thoughtful, but with counters and actions that can be taken that encourage aggressive moments like kicking an enemy off a cliff, into a wall, or just roundhousing a group for extra damage. Your knife, like I mentioned before, is no longer just an escape tool, but can parry just about anything, from thrown axes, arrows, bullets, and even this arm-mounted thing. That variety of guns gives you options on how to tear through crowds, such as piercing handgun rounds with the Punisher, or the high-damage Red 9, a riot shotgun good at longer ranges with decent damage, or a fast-shooting crowd-controlled drum-fed shotgun. Use the rifle for precise shooting to take off heads or ignite enemy explosives in their own hands. Hell, there's even a rocket launcher, which bugs. This variety is greatly supported by the equal variety of enemies that keep you on your toes from area to area. We start with typical melee enemies that will try and hack, slash, punch, stab, and even put you in headlocks that you gotta break out of. Or lay these god-awful bear traps, which were evilly placed by the enemies and devs. Like, I swear to God, I think I hit almost every single one of these. The physics engine is pretty neat because you can block those throwables or even shoot them out of the air, or throw enemies into their own bear traps. We also have ranged enemies to support the close range with bows and arrows that can be blocked, or explosives that personally I found useful to keep alive so you can use them against the enemies because friendly fire is very much a thing here. We of course have the traditional big boy that you have to worry about to round out their combat dynamic. They hit absurdly hard and are a demanding presence on the field that you can usually choose to avoid or take a lot of effort to deal with, but can be worth it. Just worry about that one shot. Later, you can get introduced to variants of these enemies in the different sections, such as enemies with shields and medieval weaponry in the castle, or enemies with armor and somewhat high-tech equipment on the island. Of course, a large majority of these enemies have a chance to let their plug out if you deal a killing blow, which turns an easy dead enemy into a much more lethal threat. It kinda reminds me of a soft Crimson's Head system from RE1 that is more active and requires split-second decisions on how to deal with them. A lot of the time you can finish them off before transformation when they're on the ground with your knife. But if you put them in a bad spot, you really have to think on, do you want to deal with it now, or do you very shortly want to deal with the consequences? Gross mutations aren't the only Resident Evil action you'll get here. In later sections you get these Blug that fly around and camo. Full version of the Plagas that control suits of armor and that require precise aim. Dogs. Yeah, just dogs. Giants, and of course bosses. This franchise has always had a reputation for bombastic fights that vary widely, from the original having Big Spider and Snake to the nemesis Birkin or Heisenberg. The franchise never lacked in variety, but had varying levels of quality. Without spoiling much here, I'll just use some gameplay of giant bosses or promo material stuff. I actually loved almost every single boss here except one, which felt more like a set piece that was still cool, just not as good as the others in my opinion. If you play, you'll know what I mean. I think it's crazy that every type of RE fan will be very pleased with what Capcom has done here with at least 2 of the bosses. However, the real crazy part is somehow, even with this clear action gameplay, they managed to support and keep the horror and stressful feel of the game for the fans. You see, there has always been a divide in the Resident Evil fanbase between action from RE5, 6, and 4, and the horror of 7, 8, 1, and 2. It's never been easy to please each side, as fundamentally they end up being different games, and personally, I'm in the middle. Shockingly though, they did it for me. The game has that perfect mix of horror and action. They do this by not taking away your power, but throwing you into situations which you are challenged and have to really think on a swivel, such as these blind guys in the dungeon, or the, spoilers again, regenerators, which had me scrambling to find any way out. It's actually gaming perfection. The other smaller, more subtle, but fundamental ways they do this is through merchant, crafting, puzzles, and Ashley. The merchant is your best friend, and if you are a more recent Resident Evil fan, he's essentially the Duke from RE8. Our knickknacks like treasures which can be slaughtered with gems to make them worth more money. Do quests for a trade-only currency for unique items, buy new guns and upgrades for them, and repair our knife and body armor. You can make a lot of choices on how you want to approach this game, and I really like it. It still follows typical RE logic though, which drops you ammo for what you have, so I tended to stick to my favorites and just upgrade their damage till the end of the game. This is especially important for your inventory, which is a suitcase that you have to organize. It's a fun little game to keep you on your toes, but it's a little forgiving as you can send items that are important, like guns, to the storage if you have no space. Can't keep ammo or health in there though. Also, auto sort is a lie. It does not exist. Do not believe it. The newest addition is that crafting system, which lets you make a whole bunch of things. Flash nades, grenades, ammo, you know, the important stuff like the classic herb system with yellow herbs used to increase your max health, and red for stronger combined heals. Be smart and think about what you have on you because it could save your life. What also requires thinking are the puzzles. We got the typical Resident Evil obscure puzzles that vary in their style and difficulty. I won't spoil them as I actually really liked them, but they range from matching the actions of a picture to a hexagonal puzzle that Germa couldn't do, but being honest, the real puzzle and challenge is Ashley. Don't get me wrong, I actually liked Ashley as a character and her dynamic with Leon,
I'm pretty much a master of unlocking.
but goddamn, she can be really annoying at times. Getting it out of the way, yes, it's quite literally an escort mission mechanic thrown across the whole game, but at least a little more engaging. When with Ashley, you have to keep her safe while you do your thing. You do this by killing whatever's around you two, but you can also order her to stay close to you so you can run away from things, or far back, or even in something like a dumpster or a closet so you can engage in combat. Keep an eye on her though, because if an enemy gets close, they can knock her down or try and kidnap her back. When kidnapped, you have to hit the enemy carrying her before they get away. A nice tip is that you can freely one-shot them with a knife here, so you can technically, if you want to, turn it into a strategy for dealing with an enemy or two. If she's knocked down, you must pick her up before she's hit again or you'll lose. And yes, you can kill yourself, so be careful. Although sometimes I just left her on the floor in order for me to focus on enemies, as I noticed they don't target her a lot of the time when she's like that. In regular gameplay, she can be helpful in puzzles and is very eager to do so. She also has really nice dynamic dialogue depending on what you do, which is pretty fun in the shooting range.
Awesome!
Speaking of, the shooting range is the pretty fun and not technically necessary side activity. You go into the range and complete specific gun challenges to get the gacha tokens to get charms. These charms are really helpful and made with RNG. They do things such as give 100% more money from selling health items, 20% off the rocket launcher, or more useful for me, more ammo from crafting. Speaking of, you can actually customize your case to do certain things with skins which are kind of pay to win. The pre-order one gives higher money drop rates, while the OG gives more ammo. On my professional run, I actually prefer the base one for extra ammo, but let's be honest here, the real fun about getting the charms and upgrades for your case is that song in the range.
It's a bully bonanza! Fire everything you've got!
Oh yeah, I fuck with this. I needed this OST yesterday, dude. Of course, at the end of me writing this, Mercenaries mode releases. Mercenaries, for those who don't know, releases with almost every RE game as a horde mode that lets you play with different characters with unique abilities, such as Wesker, Heisenberg, or just Barry. I'll admit though, I'm not usually a fan of these modes, and they never kept my attention. This game changed that. Yeah, this mode's really cool and absurdly fun. We have at the moment 3 maps and 4 characters. Don't know if there'll be more, but these characters are what you care about though. Leon, Luis, Krauser, and even Hunk. It's simple. Kill stuff until the enemies run out or you die. Every few enemies spawns a boss to keep you on your toes, but you have fixed inventory and unique abilities. For instance, my favorite 2 are Krauser and Hunk. Krauser has this explosive bow for insane damage, the TMP, a unique melee, and most cool, his mutated arms. Yeah, you can use boss powers on your special ability and it's sick. For instance, Hunk gets unlimited ammo which shreds and has a unique one-shot melee. I also love the OSTs for this section with them all being unique remixes. Like Hunk, who has the RE2 Remake's Third Survivor OST, just remixed. Awesome attention to detail. Avoiding a Fallout 4 distraction of never reaching the main story, let's talk about that. Resident Evil 4, as I mentioned before, is about you, Leon Kennedy, saving the president's daughter 6 years after the events of Resident Evil 2. In the time past, Leon was convinced to join the Secret Service and Special Forces to help deal with bioterror. You know, answer Code Veronica and Operation Javier, but before this end, we're here, with Leon personally being asked by the president to find his daughter. We shortly arrive in the iconic village with our escort being brutally, seemingly sacrificed by the people of the village. We now have to figure out, with the help of Hunnigan, our handler, what is going on here, and where is Ashley. Spoilers from this point forward, as I'll be talking about the story and what I loved, so go here to avoid. Making our way into the village, we quickly discover that, in fact, everyone here is infected with these plagas. Anyone who either did not submit or found seemed to have been brutally killed or sacrificed to the Los Illuminados. Regardless, we push our way through and get the story of what happened in my favorite fashion: collectibles and items. We find old notes, diaries, and documents littered around the village about how a grand castle and lord, not far from where we currently are, had done something to convince the village elder to take upon the plaga and forcibly infect the others and turn their religion into one dedicated to Los Illuminados. And at one point, a young man's father has died here. It's at the lake where we get to meet our first, actually not crazy person, Luis Serra.
That hurts, you know?
Seemed like you really wanted to talk.
How observant, senor. Now, you got a smoke?
You know, those things will kill you.
Oh, well, maybe just untie me then, huh?
Before shortly meeting the elder. I won't lie, I love Luis, which isn't surprising because I heard he was a fan favorite from before, but I can finally say, yeah, he's pretty cool, with some interesting interactions with Leon that I will admit are way better in the OG in some cases, in my opinion.
Okay, I have only one very important question. You got a smoke?
Got gum.
We don't know why he's here, but ask Hunnigan to see if she can't find out who he is, and potentially why he knows where Ashley may be. After leaving our small stealth section that I failed both times, we are wait a minute, we lose the jacket? I'm crying on the inside at the loss of that drip. That's such a nice jacket. Anyways, as you can see, time has passed, and I really like how that looks. And as we head into the village, we get to see that sunrise in all its beauty. It gives us great area, amazing send-off, as we head into the next section and are saved by, wowie, I wonder who that could be. No, not Ada, no. Anyways, Hunnigan gets back to us and we learn Luis's umbrella. Well, the former umbrella. And I really like that, as I feel it gives us a chance to humanize someone who actually worked on something for Umbrella, and not just some crazy leadership or spies. Oh, also, don't forget this dog who I feel for, cause man, I hate these bear traps too, dude. Using our lead that Ashley may be in the church, we head there ourselves. Unfortunately, this is Resident Evil, so it's never as simple as just getting in. We have to find ourselves the key, somewhere in the region around the lake. To get there, we pass through Yeah, this totally won't be a boss room. We do this by getting some fuel for the boat so that we can take it to get around the lake. After starting the boat, we get our first boss. This is Del Lago, and it's that boss that I mentioned that I'm not the hugest fan of. We gotta use spears to kill this big fish while being dragged around by it and dodging debris, and it. It may be my least favorite just because how annoying it was on hardcore, but I will admit it really is a cool set piece. I dread this boss the most on a no death run though. Killing the big boy gives us a really cool, somewhat open section. Unlocking this puzzle gives us the task of traversing the rest of the lake in any order we'd like to get our hands on 2 heads for the hands to get the key to the church. It's relatively simple, but pretty fun outside of these mutated dogs, which are kind of annoying. Also, don't miss the red 9 here in the center. Not the biggest fan of it, but I will admit I plan on trying it out on my professional run. Getting the key and making our way out, we get interrupted by
Shit.
Gloria a las plagas.
Jesus Christ!
Yep, totally not a boss room. This is El Gigante, and not the first time or version of him we will fight. Fighting him requires us to damage him enough to expose the worm on his back.
Got worms too?
Okay, Leon. You can also jump on him for extra damage with a knife when he's down. You also get supported by the goodest boy who we helped earlier. Pretty cool that they actually do something with this seemingly uneventful encounter. In my opinion, it's a good boss that even though you will see several times, never really overstays its welcome, and is mixed up pretty well each time. Unlike Callisto Protocol, which uses the same boss over and over and over to the point where it's stupid. We then return to the church and complete this actually pretty neat stained glass puzzle and meet Ashley.
Easy with that. My name's Leon. I'm here in the president's orders and... that went well.
Understandably, she's not too excited to follow us at first, but our first glimpse of Saddler and a hunting party for us gets her to trust us. It's here we get our first bits of gameplay with Ashley and how to protect her. She isn't exactly the easiest to protect, but you'll get used to it. You also get access to co-op areas, which will become a main mechanic for both side and main content. Moving through the village in order to reach our extract, unfortunately, we get ambushed at the house, which we previously passed, with Luis saving us. This is a really cool set piece that is incredibly hard on hardcore, that feels really good when you beat it. The close quarters makes the SMG and shotgun your best friends here. After our escape, we finally confront Luis about his past and what's going on.
You want to start explaining?
The cough, the blood, is caused by something called plaga. Okay. You saw those people, right? But you have the same thing inside you. The same thing that made them like that. What you're experiencing, these symptoms, they're only the beginning.
Well, we figured that ourselves, but it's neat to hear it confirmed. Also, take note of that scar for later. We also get some typical Ada conspiracy stuff with her, Luis, and a third party who you probably know is. We move to the last part of the village and get chased by Mendez, the big guy who's the elder. Only to be confronted by him one last time, and he's sick of playing games and trying to convince us to join.
Hasta luego.
God, I thank you for your gift.
You want to get ugly? Let's get ugly.
Now, this is the body horror we all know Resident Evil for. And it not only lives up to its grossness, but also just being a really cool boss fight. Once again, we shoot the eyes in typical Resident Evil style and dodge some attacks with some crazy style. Like, what the hell is that, Leon? Then finally get in the big honcho of this horrible place and move somewhere a little more grand. This is Salazar Castle, the place we could see from a distance for quite some time now, and they're not gonna just let us walk in. We have to get past these medieval defenses and new enemies that were introduced. I'll admit, I made this area way harder on myself and didn't realize till my last attempt, you can shoot the barrels to destroy the catapults. I, in my grand genius, just used the cannon, which is arguably more cool, so I win in my heart. Damn the fact I died like 4 or 5 times. Making our way into the castle, we finally meet the lord of this castle we've heard of.
A most warm welcome to my castle. Such a pleasure to finally make your acquaintance, Mr. Kennedy.
Who the hell are you?
Me? Oh, please, call me Ramon.
Yeah, he's pretty creepy, but interesting. So let's take a moment to talk about him. This is Ramon Salazar, latest lord in the family that has resided and ruled over this land for generations. His family was honorable and was full of heroes dedicated to giving their lives to containing the Las Plagas and the Los Illuminados cult. And they did so for many years, regardless of the lord's personal issues, such as one installing weird traps and contraptions out of paranoia, rearming the castle, or making grand additions like the courtyard and ballroom. Pretty cool in World Way to mention why the place is the way it is, and foreshadow future areas. But now, after many years, a weak, young, cruel lord is left by himself with no guidance, and was taken advantage of by Lord Sadler, the leader of this cult, to sway him to believe in Los Illuminados and their ascension. It unfortunately worked, and Ramon, much to his subjects' dismay, commit himself to him and begin digging out the Las Plagas from the mine, thus infecting the workers in the village, then anyone and everyone. Hundreds of years of protection down the drain, and here we are at the peak of their plans, of which Ashley is essential. He introduced us to the new areas and new enemies. These guys come with actual melee weapons like maces, scythes, and shields that require you to play a little different. So it's a really nice change of pace. Shotguns and anything that pierces are really effective here. Making our way through this breach, kind of funny it isn't fixed considering how nice the area is, we get to the dungeon and see the extent of how cruel this lord can be with some nasty contraptions for torture, and meet the Garrador. These are one of the freaky guys to fight. They are blind as a bat, but can hear just as well. You can crouch walk to sneak around them and use the bolt thrower to silently attack. Just don't bump into anything. Unfortunately for me, I really don't like the bolt thrower. It's the only weapon I actually don't like, so I just fought him straight on. You gotta shoot him in the back to reveal his plaga, just like the big guy, and it's actually kinda challenging. Flashes work great here, as good as anything with extra crit like rifles. Overall, absolutely fantastic fight to enemy an area. We have light puzzle mechanics to get up to the bridge area. I do like how these will be used throughout the castle several times. It makes things feel consistent. I also really love how Ashley reacts to our admittedly stupid chandelier antics.
Leon, what are you doing?
Don't even think about trying this yourself.
Me? As if.
Next section is the bridge area, and I will admit I am biased against this because I almost completely ran out of ammo here. Our goal is theoretically simple. Get the part to lower the bridge. The not so simple part is the absolute ton of defenders here to stop us. But we get through, and there's more. Okay, so now you gotta raise the bridge with Ashley, which is the first time we get to use the order system. Defend Ashley while keeping ourselves alive. Jokes aside, this area is actually pretty cool. I just had absolutely nothing here. Sadler speaks to us all again, but this time takes control of Ashley. Being afraid of herself and what she's done locks us out and makes us go the long way. Not gonna lie, I used to get frustrated at things like this in stories, but honestly, like Leon, I now understand it. She was a fairly normal girl, besides being the president's daughter, so most likely wasn't used to this kind of absolutely freaky horror crap. Regardless, we go through losing Hunnigan due to the signal here and meet a few new enemies. In the first area, we meet the Priest. These guys are surprisingly tanky and serve more of a support role. Do not underestimate them though, because they cause enemies to mutate, making them much more dangerous groups. They also teleport and slap you with their staff. Definitely a high value target. Just like our new icky friends, the Arana, a fully grown plaga that we first find scuttling along the floors and walls looking for a new host. When finding an enemy, they make them much more annoying and strong by latching onto them. They become faster and more erratic, making them hard to hit, and if you kill the host, the bug remains, looking for a new one. So here you want to aim for the Arana, ideally as soon as you see it, before it attaches, or when it's on the back of an enemy. Later on, they actually crawl out of killed enemies from time to time, so take note.
You can stop right there, Leon. Wouldn't make me use this, would you?
Well, after 6 years, that is one hell of a greeting. Ada.
Here, after 6 long years, Leon finally meets Ada again, And I have something I want to say. I like Ada. I think she's cool. But I really hope when they remake RE5 and 6 that they don't make Leon go after Ada for 20 years. Like, come on, dude. Finally reaching our last stretch before reaching Ashley, we find the Armored Gigante.
Another one. You guys are really starting to become a giant pain in my...
Which is cooler than it sounds, as I too, when first hearing that, expected previous boss, but this time with more health. But it isn't that. Here we have to go along the castle wall to escape while avoiding the big boy's giant rock throws, while juggling enemies and light puzzle mechanics to open doors. If you can take it slow and maneuver yourself well, the rock throws can actually be used to save tons of ammo because it one-shots pretty much every enemy until we reach a cannon. We have to go floor by floor to remove the weight so we can actually use it on the boss, using the same mechanics along the way. Then we can fell this giant. Absolutely sick area and the fantastic use of a previous boss that is altered in a way completely new and unique that allows you to combine the mechanics of the whole area. I'm really glad he didn't overstay as well. Oh my god. Meeting Ashley again is kinda sweet and nice for them to finally reconcile and get back to working together. Next are some pretty simple puzzle and combat sections. A maze where we lower flags, a grand room? Atrium? Whatever it's called, where we must get 3 heads through 3 separate parts. One, we must fight our way out. Another, we do a dinner puzzle that took me way too long, and a room where we fight Knight's armor controlled by plagas, which I will say is actually an awesome addition, and it makes you cautious around every set of armor you see in the castle. We finally bring all the pieces, and oh no, I don't know how Leon's supposed to get out of this one. Just kidding, we get an Ashley section here, which has actually kind of caught me off guard, and I was ready to hold the line as Leon. Yeah, this is a pretty neat horror section against knights. You sneak around them and use the lamp to keep the knights stunned. Just really fun and amazing work done here by the team. Although, I felt like I've seen or played something like this mechanically before. If you know what I might be thinking, please tell me, because it's bothering me. We get her back. Wait, you're telling me Leon killed everything that came at him? Honestly not surprised, given what he's done in the games and the movies, but Jesus, dude. And of course, Ashley gets taken from us again. We also learn that Ada's still trying to get the amber. Why do they do an ass shot for every time? I swear to God. And talking to the mysterious man again. We pass this bug-filled area to reach another head puzzle. Does that make 3? With 2 blind boys, but 1 with armor. Pretty cool fight, and funny if you use the blindness against the enemies to save ammo. But don't wait too long, because if you do, they will reinforce again and again and again. So best to rush this. Seeing Ashley again with Ramon tells us that she really isn't well and forced to drink this black goop that we saw in the bridge puzzle, then thrown down the trapdoor Java style. There's no rancor for us, but bugs, and a note telling us the liquid accelerates the plagas infection. Moving through some sewers, any flashbacks, Leon? We reach a lab and face the Verdugo, one of Ramon's closest men as we saw earlier. This fight's really cool. We have to freeze him to stun and damage him, or we can wait the elevator out. I personally killed them, but be careful as you have to do it fast with these liquid nitrogen baths that have 1 use each. It's a really intense fight, and probably one of the most claustrophobic in the game. Not gonna lie though, this next scene was kinda what dumb on the way up with Luis, with how it revealed Krauser, but not the one with Luis. Luis gives us a booster for us and Ashley when we meet up, so the plaga doesn't take over. Luis takes over for Ashley here as our partner and can't die, but even better, he can actually kill stuff. This comes important in the boss fight. 2 gigantes. 1 regular, 1 armored. Once again, not as bad as I thought it would be. We can kill the normal one normally and the big one normally after we wait out Luis to help us with dynamite. Or we can drop both of them into the lava pit, which is much more fun in my opinion and takes way less ammo. Also, the rewards aren't crazy, so I would at least drop the armor one. Even though this is fun, the next 2 sections absolutely trump it in every way. Firstly, we have an absolutely insane and ridiculous minecart phase that is one of the most action-y B-movie things I've ever seen or played, and I love it. You defend yourself with Luis's gun, destroy debris, move along the track, and try not to tip over. If there was ever a Resident Evil Universal ride, it has to be this, and I need it now that I think about it. Luis is honestly really fun with Leon here, and I love their dynamic a lot, although why is he in the wide shot? Oh no.
You know it means we're almost...
Almost what?
This is Major Krauser, former associate of Leon who even trained him. He fights with knives and we get a melee battle with him that feels like Metal Gear, which is absolutely amazing. It makes me really want to play MGS3 again. During the fight with Leon, Krauser discusses his past with Operation Javier. Long story short, Leon and Krauser were sent to deal with the drug lord who infected his daughter with the virus T. Veronica, but could control it. I'm sweeping over this because the information given later in the game and during this conversation imply, at least to me, that they changed the Dark Side Chronicles, so this could be different now. Luis unfortunately dies here, just like everyone who Leon seems to meet. Poor guy, can't be good on that mental, but I guess that might be why his drip ends up the way it is in 6. Skipping ahead, we get through the castle via elevator segment to reach Ramon on the top of the castle, as Krauser takes Ashley away. Leon and I have had enough of this tiny man, so we deal with this mutated form. This is far different than the original game, but they used a lot of his OG voice lines from the cut radio logs, with radio conversations, which is nice. We have to shoot Ramon himself while dodging his attacks. Honestly, not much to say about this boss. It was cool and fun. That's about it. I wasn't super invested in Ramon as a character, but it was still engaging from a story point of view. The island is the final section that Ada helps us get to. It's also nice to see Leon fight back along the way a little bit. This is also that Metal Gear looking and feeling area. Like, just look at this. I don't know if it's been a while, but for some of these areas, it feels like a Kojima game. The main fighting force here are the workers sent from the village and the castle, but as this is a factory, they are armed with slightly more advanced equipment. Electric prods, machine gun turrets, metal shields, helmets, and even automatic crossbows. Enemies here are strong and encourage stealth combat because of that. Especially since enemies transform far more often, and with this new big boy you have to shoot in the mouth. I've actually found the best way to beat them here is to use a shotgun to shoot legs off because they can't transform and it ignores armor. I also noticed they're just far weaker there than anywhere else since headshots can cause transformations. We find Ashley in the labs and discover a little more about Sadler. He was part of the science team. No, not that one. In order to use the parasites and gain more power. This was under the pretense of being Umbrella and made changes to the parasites so the weaker ones would be mind controlled while people with the dominant one could control them and be free. Slowly the staff were infected and controlled, while Luis made a way to get his out. My headcanon is Luis wrote a lot of these notes as he watched his friends go crazy, but you never know, and I think it'd make for a good story. This area is also really easy. It seems to be a breeze with these power oh no, I forgot. These are the regenerators, and they are just gross with how they move, especially that weird slitherish move on the ground. You can't kill these without a special scope, which you get to target the multiple parasites they have, as they technically are immortal. They are this area's main enemy and required almost all of your attention. The lab's just sick with how it plays with that to keep the stressful horror vibe. Reaching Ashley again, I'm saying this a lot and I'm realizing how often we lose her, gives us a nice reunion where she is obviously now hitting on Leon and wants to help him more and more. Listen, Leon, she's cute, but she does not want that. Everyone dies that like him. He's worse than Isaac Clarke. Just please stay away. Although, the most amusing part of her helping is the Wrecking Ball section, which is actually kinda hard but fun. And then what do you know? Sadler takes her using mind control. Again, which is kinda getting annoying, not gonna lie, and I'm glad it's the last time we have to deal with that. I think this is just a really poor story choice. What I am glad to do, however, is fight Krauser in the arena he set up and challenged us in. It's easily the best Resident Evil boss fight ever, in my opinion. It's a 1v1 with different stages. First we gunfight as we move along, then go through his turrets and the bridge, which I will say these are some evil bear trap placements, like oh my god. Then knife fight again, but you can actually slip gun damage in here. He then finally shows his mutation, which makes an arm blade, and it is also sick, especially as he hunts us through this dark area. My only complaint with this fight is my fault. I brought the RPG expecting something ridiculously hard at the last battle with both arms mutated. I was wrong and it just one-shot him, which pissed me off because on a second run, the boss is absolutely amazing. Don't make that mistake, and I did, and please play it legit. It's just too much fun to pass up. Next, we finally get word back from Hennigan. Well, not word, a helicopter with Mike, our best man who cleaves through everything while we support him by taking out emplacements and becomes friends with Leon. Of course, that means he did his best, but those damn bugs took him out. Luckily, Ada helps us and totally didn't get captured. Then we get to Ashley and remove our parasites with her help. Remember Luis's scar? Well, we don't get one, or blood at all. I wonder why it's different. Regardless, we owe him our lives and repay him, if even just a little, by sorting out Sadler, another grand boss, which the Killer 7 made short work of. Ada, of course, gives us the win button and leaves us as we have a duty. One short James Bond feeling jet ski escape and Ashley shooting Leon another shot later, and we did it. That's Resident Evil 4. However, It's Ada's after credits, which is the interesting part of this story.
100 will give their lives so that just one may live. I am expediting that change.
So, we're talking millions of casualties.
Billions.
How ambitious. We're changing course now.
This is different, and implies RE5 will not be the same, and likely different. Honestly, I'm down for it, as they seem to be going up the list till RE7, and I cannot wait to see what they do with what is essentially free reign. Please don't touch Rev 2 though, I love the Revelations games. Resident Evil 4 Remake is a perfect love letter to fans. One of the few times I'd actually say a game is perfect. A game that I have virtually zero issues with. The gameplay feels perfect. The visuals are fantastic. The voice acting is mostly superb, and the areas are all so unique you won't get sick of any of them, and if you do, you're already leaving them. Of course, there are a few pay-to-win aspects because Capcom, but really can be avoided, and if you really feel the urge, you can pick them up on sale. Mercenary mode rounds this out as an even more full package, furthermore justifying the price tag, which many games struggle with nowadays. And if you do fall in love with this like I did, the Separate Ways DLC, based on the same thing named from the OG, is coming. Man, Resident Evil fans are eating really well nowadays. With how Capcom's been doing and on, I obviously cannot recommend this game more. Even if you aren't a Resident Evil fan, I'd recommend this game because it really is just that good. Even if it's just because you're down bad from Leon, just like a certain friend of mine. I'm more than excited to see what Capcom has in store for Resident Evil 5 and 6 in the coming years, as I'm sure it'll be more than worth the wait. Hey yeah, Malcador here. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for all of you who decided to come check this out and subbed in recent days. It has blown my mind to see people actually like or care about what I think, and just from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I'm really just doing this because I love the medium and talking with others about it. On to business though. This should be releasing right before finals, so I'll probably take some time before next video, which won't be Bioshock Infinite because I want a clear head when I do review it, and sometime from the last Bioshock. Instead, I'll be covering something a little bit smaller that I can do in a short review, Signalis. So put it on my radar, and it looks amazing if you are a survival horror guy like me. Also worth noting, my production quality might be a little different in this video, just because I switched from Premiere Pro because I got annoyed with it, to DaVinci, so we'll see what happens. So, like and sub if you enjoyed, and if you didn't, tell me what I can improve you on. I love you all, and I'll see you later.